via all those platforms, it's not as good. So thanks for coming. Hopefully we can keep, thanks for the thumb up. Yeah. Hopefully we can build our numbers back again, because I'm dead keen to get people back in the room again. It's hard, I think, to get people to back out into the event. So thanks for coming. We're going to have a chat with Alison. 45 minutes.
Oh, as long as you like.
It'll go like that, seriously. And then we'll take some questions from the floor. So whilst we're chatting, if there's something on your mind, make a note of it. And then we can ask Alison it later on at the end of the session, if that's okay. If you want a beer before we start, then...
Sorry, I think you might have forgot to adjust your levels again.
You want me up?
96.
I don't even know what that means.
Ditto. No, I'm literally on 96, Lee. Yeah, if anyone at home can tell me if they can hear us, that would be good. Yeah, if you want to grab a beer or a drink whilst we're talking, that's fine. That's totally cool. Do you want a beer?
No, I'm driving.
Yeah, I'm not allowed.
I've got to go to Durham for the Culture Awards after.
Oh, God, I'll be quick and soz.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Huh? The longer you sit there, it's a bit of a numb bum situation with the pews. So.
Right, okay. Right, this is better anyway.
Much more comfy.
Right, what should we do? Right, back. You're Jarrah lass, aren't you?
I'm a Jarrah lass, yeah. So grew up on Felgate, and I live in Carve Close now.
Is it not Jarrow? If you're from Jarrah, it's Jarrow, isn't it? Do you say Jarrah?
I've never said Jarrow in my life.
Have you not? All right, okay. Wow. Have we got any other Jarrow folk in here? Sarah, is it Jarrow or Jarrah? Jarrow, there you go, you see. The posh end.
I was going to be, which bit of Jarrah are you from?
Right, I've got some questions for you.
Yes.
Northeast Green.
Northeast Green.
Actually, before we do that, do you want to tell us your background? Because you were at 7 Stories before that. And
I've done a few things. So my background is not film and telly. My background originally is marketing. So I specialise really in business development for creative industries. So, so I started off in a pretty commercial environment, fresh out of, well, you know, back in the late 80s, early 90s. And then I spent a decade working for the most amazing organisation in the universe called Tradecraft. So it's a fair trade organisation who are changing the world. So that was really my formative years in terms of business. And it was fascinating because they were literally changing people's lives. So I learned a lot there. And I also learned a lot about what you shouldn't do in business.
Okay.
So that was fun. And after 10 years, had a family and needed to earn a little bit more money. So went into a commercial environment, hated that. Who wants to work for a big corporate world? Definitely not me. I want to make a difference. And then I was at Centre for Life for a while. So if you ever go on the ice rink, that was one of mine. And then for 14 years, I was at 7 Stories. I helped to set that up. And that was an amazing part of my life.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
Yeah.
Have you all been to 7 Stories before? Yeah.
Yeah. I do miss it. It was haven't stepped foot back in 6 years. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready to do that because it's like one of your babies.
Yeah.
So I look back fondly, and it was some amazing experiences. I mean, the people that I met and the brilliant people that I worked with was fab. But then I had a bit of a midlife. I'm not saying midlife because I was 48 at the time, which is not really midlife. And I'd been at 7 Stories for 14 years, and it was exhibition number 36. What? Yeah. And one of the things that really struck me was at 7 Stories, we were sparking the imagination of literally generations of amazing young people. You literally could see it right in front of your face. But then they would go off to uni, but then where were the jobs? So if you wanted to work in the creative industry and stay in the Northeast, they were few and far between. So I naively thought, well, maybe I could do something about that.
Have we got anyone in the creative industry here in the room? Yeah, wonderful. Good stuff. Yeah. Are you aiming for more hands?
I'm happy to talk to anybody. But
no, and talking about the future, do you want more hands? Do you want to see more creative?
Oh, I mean, the creative industry employs more people than manufacturing and engineering combined.
Right.
I'm going to make a lot of noise about it's not just about arts and culture and doing fun stuff. It's also massive in terms of inward investment and well-paid jobs. We just need more of them in our region. So I'm determined. So that's me That's my mission at the minute. That's what I'm working hard to do.
Wonderful. That's a nice segue into North East Screen then.
Yeah.
How long have you been there?
So coming up to 6 years.
6 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah?
Yeah. So when I joined, it was called Northern Film and Media. The organisation's been around for 20 years. And the remit, I have changed it a little bit, but the remit was always, as the regional screening agency, to support film and telly into the region. So how do we get more film and telly to be made here? How do we help productions when they come in to find crew and locations? And how do we support businesses and those people who want to enter the industry? So those things actually are still carried forward. The big challenge was when One North East, who was the major funder, and some of the other quangos with the coalition government. Not that I want to get too political tonight, but I can get very political if you want me to. Anyway, the organisation at that point lost 93% of its funding overnight. So it was this multi-million-pound agency with a really fantastic remit. And at the time, the finance director was an amazing guy called John Tulip. And he'd scribbled away what he thought would be 3 years' worth of reserves and thought the organisation can batten down the hatches. And in 3 years, there's got to be a change politically, and there's got to be more support for the creative industry in the region. And the 3 years turned into 9 years, and the money was running out. And that's when my job was created.
When you say 9 years, had John been really good and squirreled 9 years of money, or had you made the 3 years stretch?
He'd done some really fab things and really challenging things. So he'd made the money stretch as much as he could, and also used it to leverage in ARDF money or Arts Council money or project by project. So what that did. Sorry, just moving it really. What that did was it enabled the organisation to survive, but it was really ad hoc.
Okay.
So we could do, and the organisation could do a bit of work in Durham, but you couldn't do anything in Tyneside because a lot of that has postcode handcuffs around it. And that was really, really tough. But it was tough as an organisation, but it was more tough on the industry and the guys in the region who had support and then weren't getting the support. And the organisation wasn't brilliant at telling everybody that we didn't have any money or we were struggling. So a lot of the industry just thought the computer says no. Okay.
Did you mean there that you weren't good at telling people that North East Screen didn't have money, or North?
Well, it was not. I'm a bit. Does anybody offended if I swear?
Well, there's a swear jar,
okay.
And is anyone offended? Nah.
Okay. Nah. So when I joined, it was Northern Film and Media, NFM, so the first thing you do when you join an organisation is you talk to your clients, don't you? You talk to the people that you're there to support. And multiple people said, well, you know what everybody calls NFM? No fucking money. That's why I changed the name to North East Screen.
North East. We're now thinking of acronyms now. NES, right? Yeah. Okay.
So the organisation was doing the best that it could under the circumstances in really, really challenging times. Yeah. But what that meant was that the industry really suffered in the North East. So only 1% of film and telly is made or was made in the North East for about 10 years. And if you think, just think of those numbers. I saw a report just this week. Just telly, just made in the UK, has an annual turnover of 2 billion.
I love the way you say telly. Telly, not TV. Why 1% up here in the North East? Why?
Multiple things. Everybody who lives in London thinks that we're in Scotland. My favourite...
We are live, by the way, globally.
My favourite story is we were, and this is before my time, but we were supporting a pretty major Hollywood movie that was being filmed in Alnwick Castle and around the gardens, and the production company on this huge articulated lorry brought a tree trunk because we haven't got any of them.
Wow. Hollywood, eh?
Yeah. So there is that. So because the industry was predominantly London and the southeast, that's where the clusters were. That's where the money was. That's where the jobs were. And without that additional infrastructure support, what happened to the reasonably small industry that we had before we lost funding went where the money is. You go where the jobs are. Okay. So for the last decade, if you have really wanted to work in film and telly, and you don't get a job on Vera, you leave the region. So you're a freelancer and leave the region. And that's not right. You know, we've got one of the reasons that I went for the job in the first place is that I believe you should be able to make world-class content, be paid a proper wage and sleep in your own bed. So I'm going to make that happen.
Tom Cruise is here, isn't he?
Oh, well, don't talk about Mr. Cruise.
No, I thought he has he not touched down in Newcastle this week or something?
The other thing is I'm never allowed to talk.
Sorry, special guest for you, is it? No?
We have to sign a lot of NDAs.
Right.
So I can talk about stuff after, but not during.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of my NDAs is about the
tried.
Eurovision Song Contest. That's more exciting. That's more exciting than Tom Cruise.
We'll knock the live off and you can tell us that
Yeah.
later. You mentioned there about go where the money is, but surely we've got locations here.
We've got amazing locations. So let's take last summer as an example. So we had, and again, I couldn't talk about it till after, but we had Indiana Jones filming in Bamburgh Castle, and we had Chris Pine filming in Alnwick Castle on Dungeons and Dragons the same month. And that's amazing. And that was 600 crew brought into the region. They probably spent between them about 11 million. So that's a huge amount of spend. There wasn't a bed to be had anywhere in Northumberland, but only about 50 regional crew got work, and it was for a month.
Yeah.
So we get them, but we need more of them, and we need them to stay longer. And the holy grail and everything we're working on is let's keep getting the big stuff. Let's get the returning dramas, but let's get production companies that are from the Northeast, in the Northeast, making stuff about the Northeast. That's the sweet spot.
Because there's a quote here saying the Northeast open for business, and that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, because there's no getting away from it. Where else in the UK can you have within a 40-minute drive time amazing beaches, amazing countryside, fantastic towns and cities, and then all of the industrial landscapes that are really interesting to telly and film people as well.
And didn't Harrison Ford get on his bike and go around the...
Oh, that was such a nightmare.
The fish key and that?
I mean, I was like, leave the man alone. We want him to come back.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
lit. But it's because people aren't used to having... people. But we've had some interesting people in the region that nobody knows about at the time. Again, last year we had Vera filming in Chesterloo Street. And then we also had a little show being made up in High Force. Has anybody... Do you know The Witcher? Henry Cavill. So that was the same time. Brenda was mobbed. Henry went unnoticed. It's fascinating.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So investment, funding happening in the region?
Yeah.
BBC stuff?
So the BBC is the reason I think that it's exciting to talk to you all the day. So,
Okay.
So my job is always to big up the region, to lobby, to try it and do as much as we can. But the real opportunity for us as a region came about when Tim Davie, who is the Director General of the BBC, made an announcement that the BBC were going to spend more money in the nations and regions, quite rightly. They should have been doing that a lot already, but we're very grateful.
Why weren't they?
Because it's hard. And actually, it's a juggernaut of production. So you quite often in my industry, you go for the easy, safer option.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality was they had to do something about it. So when he made that announcement, I just thought that was the golden opportunity to lobby. So I'm sure loads of people in the room send slightly arsey, a little bit angry emails thinking nobody's ever going to read them. So I just did a really slightly arsey email to Tim Davie saying, I know you're going into charter renewal, and did you know that audiences in the North East were the lowest anywhere else in the BBC? So in terms of value for money, they really should be doing more.
Audiences are the lowest. Viewing audiences are low?
Viewing audiences are lower in the North East than anywhere else in the UK.
For the BBC?
For the BBC.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we need value for money for the licence payer. And also, a relatively small investment from the BBC could ignite, and I did the ambition bit as well. So for a relatively small amount of money, we can ignite and kickstart the industry where you could spend that same amount of money in Manchester or Bristol or Glasgow and it wouldn't touch the sides. And then 20 minutes later, he emailed back So that was the Wednesday, and by Friday I was meeting the executive team.
So what's the moral of the story there?
But,
Well, we send RC emails and just push, yeah, nicely
which
done.
I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, what did you have to lose? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So you're the catalyst for all that investment.
No,
Well done.
no, I'm not. The BBC must have been considering it anyway. I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not a genius. I think it was just timing was
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
But then the BBC are fascinating and basically said, so we're listening. And then I had to be very, very honest about where we were as a region in terms of the number of crew we had, we didn't have a studio. We had talent, but we didn't have access to talent. And in terms of big production companies who had commission track records, we had one and a half. So that's actually a really high risk region for the BBC to invest in. But they got it and they knew they had to do something about it. And they were prepared to make a 5-year commitment to spend a minimum of 25 million on programmes, which is fab, if, and this is the if, we'll make that commitment if you can get the whole of the North East region to work together and co-fund some of the infrastructure support around it. And can you do it by, and the date they give me was 2.5 months. So that was, because Tim wanted to make an announcement on his 1 year in post speech. So that was interesting.
So 2.5 months, they're going to make an investment. Is that just to say that we will film here, but
No,
you've
so
got to have the infrastructure and resource?
So what they wanted was hard cash commitment from the local authorities.
All right, okay.
So what they didn't want to do is they didn't want to talk to Tees Valley or to Sunderland or to South Shields or to Newcastle. They wanted to talk to us as the North East, but to get everybody to co-fund and to support the skills that need to be invested in, the infrastructure support. We're going to have a production fund by the end of the year. And that was really, I mean, that's a massive ask. So all of the 12 local authorities and 2 combined authorities who don't work together as a unit on anything else, can you all come together, make an agreement and invest 12 million quid? But they did.
And you did it?
Yeah.
So what did you do? Go around each individual one, or did you get them
because
all
that would
to
be
you?
madness.
Yeah,
that would be madness. So again, it's, if I'd gone and asked the local authorities for that amount of funding without the BBC, I don't think anybody would have answered an email. But because it was a real opportunity with the BBC, and also it was already identified as a priority area in Tees Valley, they were ahead of the game in terms of their investment in creative industry and supporting the screen sector miles before anybody else. But that's another story. So they were already in, so I had an in. And then North of Tyne, again, was starting to develop as a combined authority their strategy around creative industry. So that was straightforward. And the hardest bit is, and again, not wanting to bore everybody with regional politics, with a combined authority you have devolved money which can be spent on economic development. So Tees Valley Combined Authority, and that represents the 5 down there. North of Tyne have Newcastle, Northumberland and North Tyneside, and they have additional money. South of Tyne at that point weren't in the devolution conversation, so that was a much tougher ask in terms of a commitment to invest. And they've been amazing. So we need to generate value for money and actually deliver. And that's one of the things I want to sort of talk about today and work with people in the room and other people across South Tyneside.
So because of that investment, has there been commissions and productions happened since then?
So the BBC made a commitment of 25 million. So that is, that's the minimum. So the commitment that they made was that they would have in the first year 2 commissions made out of the region. And also that we would host the first BBC Comedy Festival, which I don't know if anybody saw that, but we did that in May. So we haven't got 2 commissions out of the region. We've had 12.
I was waiting for like a round of applause or something now. I mean,
Well, I haven't made them. It's not me.
Just take it.
No, it's so the baby. Once the BBC are a partner, they really are a partner.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we know any other?
So there's one of those is on the telly right now. Has anybody seen Ambulance? Yeah. So that was the first commission really. So going back a little bit, when we got the local authorities together and they made this commitment that local authorities signed a partnership agreement with the BBC. So it's the BBC's relationship with the local authorities, which is really important.
Yeah.
But the second the ink wasn't even dry, and then some of the magazine shows were up. So we had Top Gear on Bamborough Beach, we had Antiques Roadshow at Woodhorn. So really quickly, there was some key landmarks on the telly very, very quickly.
Excellent.
And then the commissions take a little bit longer because they need to be made. But Ambulance is BBC's #1 factual show. It's BAFTA award-winning, and we worked really closely with the production company to get as many regional people on the crew as possible. And then we also made sure our filmed some in Tees Valley, filmed some in North of Tyne, filmed some in South. So it really is representative, and they filmed 2 series between January and May.
Excellent.
So that's the first one. In 9 days, there's another show, which is a daytime commission. It's going to be called Northern Justice. And that's about solicitors, again, across the region.
Again, factual.
Yeah, so factual is the quick win. So,
Is it?
yeah, you can do it really quick. It's cheaper telly. I mean, how many episodes of Homes Under the Hammer can you make? You know, it's quick, it's cheap, it gets things going, it gets jobs, it gets opportunities to train things. So all 12 of the commissions are factual and factual entertainment. Yeah, and the one that I think probably will do really brilliantly is one that's been made with Robson Green at the minute. So Robson Green's Dirty Weekends. So he loves the title. He's very loves the title. So basically that's Robson and a celebrity friend, which changes every episode, doing something fantastic in a different part of the Northeast.
Excellent stuff.
So it'll be really, really great. So that's going to be a fab show. The production company is from the Northeast, never had a commission before. The entire crew is from the Northeast. And we've worked out that there's going to be 50 different businesses featured in those programs right across. And when that goes live, which is probably January, we're going to do a huge amount of PR campaigns about that, so all of those businesses can generate some money, hopefully.
So, but that leads to then career progression and jobs. So,
yeah,
who do we need? Do we need to speak to universities and college and get the people through?
Loads of different things. So our crew based in the Northeast is really small. So if you I'll give you real numbers. So at the minute we've got about 400 professional crew across the whole of the Northeast. We need about 2,000. So there's a few gaps. There's a few gaps. And production is, it's not all happening at once. So there's not going to be 2,000 jobs next week. So at the minute there's jobs in factual. Next year there's going to be a focus on scripted comedy. So we're working with Hattrick, who make Derry Girls, and trying to get a Northeast version of that done. Wouldn't that be amazing? And then after that, we'll be going after drama, and the Holy Grail is returning drama because that's the big money. So those jobs will develop and change, so there'll be opportunities. But we have to be talking to our young people. We've got to be scooping them up out of college and uni. I'm a massive fan of college. Not that I'm dissing the unis. But actually, the majority of jobs in film and telly aren't creative roles.
Okay.
The craft and tech, all of those names at the end of every show. We're talking about electricians, joiners, costume, makeup, so many different opportunities. And a show will have, a writer, maybe a couple, a director. So in terms of volume of jobs that are available, tech and craft. So I'm really keen on scooping them up out of college. They're slightly harder to work with when they come out of uni because they are brilliant and have had a fantastic experience, but maybe think somebody's going to give them a couple of £1 million to direct a blockbuster movie. And I'll go, have you got a driving license? Have you got a pair of wellies? Because you might be in Hampstead Forest at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to be a freelancer, and you're going to work 12 hours a day, and then the sort of reality of that is hard. You've got to really, really, really want to do it. So the jobs are brilliant, the jobs are well paid, but you've got to really, really want to do it. And also the entry level for jobs in my industry is the same. So if you have no qualifications or if you have a master's, you're going to be a runner. Now you'll move very quickly, and if you're a camera person or you run, I'm just thinking about, you've got those skills, you'll be more likely to be a trainee in that department. Again, with makeup, you know, you're not going to be starting that from scratch compared against some people who are professional makeup artists or hair or anything like that. But actually, the starting point is entry level, runner, trainee for everybody. There is no shortcut, and everybody has done that historically. So there's a lot of education, I think, to be done around what the realistic entry pathways are, because we haven't had a big sector. Film and telly feels like the dark arts, or who do I know and how do I get in. Actually, there are some really quite standard and easy entry levels, and you know that's something we're very keen to open the lid on.
Sounds like quite a level playing field then. So if you wanted to come into that industry, you've probably got transferable skills, ex-forces. Yeah,
so that's the interesting thing. So we've talked about uni and college, but you know, it takes quite a long time to build up some of the softer skills. So the confidence around networking, the confidence around organisation, looking after budgets. And I think we had a little chat, didn't we, when we were thinking about what we were going to say today, and other areas have done brilliant things. So ex-forces do particularly well in location management because it's moving a bit of stuff from there to there. Travel agents do really well in production offices because they're booking stuff. So there are real opportunities. Production accountants you literally can write your own check if you're an accountant and you want to work in telly. Yeah. Because, you know, but it's those sort of key roles that we need to fill. So lots of opportunities.
What about the supply chain then? So people like marketers, like my team here, or, you know, is there opportunities where we can get involved? I'm trying to get you a job now.
Yeah, you know, come and work for me. Lots of opportunities in the supply chain. So if you think, so the other thing is, and again, I'm probably not allowed to say publicly too much about it, but in the very near future, we're going to have a studio in the northeast, which is going to employ a lot of people. So we need a pipeline for that, and they need a supply chain. So that could be catering, it could be security, it could be painters, joiners. So I think that there's a bit of a job to be done in terms of just raising the opportunities within that sector and getting people to understand how they could be the supplier for that sector. And then there are other opportunities in terms of you might be an artist who struggles to make a living. So everybody's got a side hustle if you're an artist. So you know, don't work in Asda, come and work in an art department on set with props. You know, there are going to be other things like that. And in terms of production companies in the region, I'm really, really interested to work with small businesses, you know, who are in that marketing, digital environment, who can run a business and understand that you've got to have accounts and health and safety and everything else. And, you know, a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a support. It's not such a big jump to start to think about making some factual telly.
You tried to pinch Lee earlier on there, didn't you, when he was setting up the cameras? You're like,
there's a bit of a shortage in camera. Yeah.
He's on a delay, so in about 10 seconds he'll grimace.
Okay.
So go on.
So the other big thing is we need to get more women. We need more women in the industry. So one of the things, and because our industry is relatively small, but nationally this is an issue, the film and television industry has been too white and too middle class and too middle age, and we need to shake that up a bit.
How?
By the industry being accessible. So when there has been so few opportunities, you know, so let's dial that back. So if you wanted to work in film and telly, there weren't the jobs in the northeast, so you'd have to go to Manchester or London. How can you afford to go there?
Okay.
Who do you know that can get you an internship?
Yeah, okay.
So it was a little bit about, I'm not saying it's massively nepotism, but you've got to have a certain disposable income or network to function in that environment. And also I think a lot of young people and older people were put off from the industry thinking, well, it's my dream, I'd love to do it, but I can't pay the mortgage doing that.
Okay.
So in order to attract people into the industry, it's got to be a real industry, it's got to be secure, and you've got to be able to make money.
So what about the people who've left the region to do that, so the people who've got to Manchester can we get them back?
So the big campaign we're developing at the minute, and I think this is dead punchy, so but if I don't get a laugh, I'll be gutted. So it's the campaign is "It's time to come home, pet." There we go.
Yeah,
Right.
well, it is.
Yeah. So we're gonna there's a big exhibition in London called Focus. It's a big industry event. So we're going to take a big stand. We're going to say it's time to come home. North East is open for business. To make real change, you need people in senior jobs within the industry from the region, because they're more likely to employ people from the region. So it's a big deal to get people. It's a big deal, but it's not hard. Why wouldn't you want to come back? I'm working with an amazing director at the minute. He's 35 and he's just directed The Sandman. Has anybody seen The Sandman? And Willow. Those are two of his big shows. And he's just bought a house on Hartlepool Headland. So he's bought a 3-storey, 7-bedroom house. So he's moved out of his cardboard box in London. And he's, happy to come home. And he's DOP, it's director photography who he works with, bought the house 3 doors down because he showed him it on Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah. So if there is an opportunity and if there is work, it's not a difficult thing to say come home.
It's beautiful. What about locations then? How do we tell these production companies that it's there, or the BBC?
Yeah,
what do you do?
So that's our job. So we
Okay.
have a location database. So any production that comes into the region. So it's 2 things. It's been reactive and proactive. So we'll get many different inquiries. We're dealing with a really interesting Bollywood one at the minute, who are looking for very specific things. So a request will come in, and we'll go through all of our locations, and we'll come up with a selection of different options for them. And that'll happen internationally. Every film ever made has a locations team that will look at different locations, and sometimes we're lucky and sometimes we're not. But we need more locations, so we need to it's something that we call being filming friendly. So if there is an opportunity for filming to happen, especially in local authorities, and I'm thinking specifically the Highways Department, need to be able to say yes.
Okay.
Because without, I think that full understanding of the impact, it's very, very easy to just say, no, that's too difficult.
Right.
And actually the impact of saying yes, is massive.
So now you've got the buy-in of all those local authorities.
So now
would that make it a bit easier?
It should.
Okay.
So that's we're going to be developing something called the Film and Friendly Charter. So the goal is to get every single local authority signed up to that, to understand why saying yes is a good thing, and then to have a named person within the local authority with enough power to say yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And you've got some great locations in South Tyneside.
Oh,
haven't you?
amazing.
I mean Ray's dying to tell you about the customs house. We can get people down there. Get in.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean,
Who else? Give us some, where?
well, haven't we got the best beach in the UK? There we go. Yeah. But we need more. And I think we need to, and again, we'll be doing different campaigns. But, everything from houses, locations don't all need to be pretty. Then, we make different types of shows. So we need to have a whole different array of locations. So that's one of the things, now that we've got some funding, we can actually invest in building up those locations. And together with the studio, happy days. So the big other thing, and I mentioned the exhibition, but we'll be launching a production fund in December as well. So the production fund will be the game changer. So the production fund gives productions a little bit of money to film here rather than somewhere else. So it's not development money, just in case anybody thinks, oh, I've got an idea, can you give us a few quid? No. But if it is a production that has, very often the last 10 to 20% of a production is the hardest money to get. So if we can offer that as an incentive, and other regions do incredibly well with production funds, don't film that in Yorkshire or Scotland, film it here. And then that comes with some conditions around the number of crew jobs and the number of trainee placements. Suddenly we'll get, we're going to have a steady increase with BBC, but having a production fund is the real game changer. That's when we'll get loads more productions into the region. We had a test fund again before my time in, I think it was 2008-ish. I can't remember. I'm making up the date. But we invested 30,000 into a little pilot show called Vera because they wanted to film it at an island. The production company wanted to film that in Ireland. And for that relatively small bit of money, they've just, this week they're filming episode number 50. Yeah, so the amount of jobs and spend and profile. I went to an event at Willoughby Playhouse last week, and I had Brenda Blethyn and Anne Cleves, and it was fascinating. And Kenny. And there were fans there.
Steph McGovern did it?
Steph McGovern did it.
I can't believe they didn't ask me to host that. I mean, Steph McGovern.
You were robbed.
Totally.
Yeah. But she lives in Tyneside.
Anne does. Oh, no, Steph does.
Yeah,
right, okay. I know Anne's Whitley Bay, isn't she?
She is.
Yeah.
But there were proper fans from New Zealand, and you know, Vera's shown all over the world. So there's now bus tours around all of the lovely places people have been murdered. So the impact, the impact that that film and telly has on tourism is brilliant. I mean, look at Alnwick and Durham still milking that Harry Potter connection. But that's brilliant. That's exactly what you want.
But you do get real Uber fans. Anne and I did a thing at the Tyne Theatre. Absolutely full, but they ask really in-depth questions. So in the book, in the 7th chapter, why did you kill that person off? And I'm like, wow, that's intense.
Yeah, there was quite a few people dressed up as Vera.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Have I thrown you now with that one?
I think, you did throw us a little bit there. I think I'm out of questions.
Should we see if anybody else has got one then?
Yes. There was one, but it'll come
back to you. You'll have a senior moment.
Thanks, mate. Does anyone have a question? Alison, if you want to shout it out, I'll say it into the microphone, and then we'll maybe record it later on and use it as a podcast. So does anyone want to start us off with a question for Alison?
I'm interested in what you said about skills in the region, and I agree from a background of vocational skills. It's interesting about giving people the confidence to try for some of these things that you're talking about.
Yeah.
We don't have any role models to pass on to our young people.
Yeah, if they can't see it, how do they know? Yeah.
So I'd be interested in how you would develop that with the young people in the North East in this region, and with a true progression pathway so they can see where they enter, how they do. You talked about internships and traineeships.
Yeah.
From somebody, I'm not in your sector, but from somebody in the training sector, if that's not clearly described, people can't visualise, so they've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So what are you doing about people entering the sector?
So loads of stuff.
Can I just kind of summarise that?
Yes, of course.
So that was a pathway of skills. Pathway of skills, role models. What are you going to do about that? Maybe a case study. This is how things can.
I think it's more about a description of what happens, what you need to do. So
Okay.
to do this, as I'm talked about internships, traineeships, you need to understand what are the steps.
What are the steps, Alison? What are the steps?
So the first step would be to sign up to our mailing list and to follow the social media. Really, I mean, that sounds like a plug. It's not. And then we have something that's called the Crew Academy. So that's open to anybody over the age of 18 who lives in the North East. And the second that you're interested, we've got your back. So we'll do lots of different things. So I'll give you a couple of examples, and then there'll be more stuff on the website, and I'm happy to talk about it more. So we do big networking events, and I'm looking at Ray that we'll do one of these in the Customs House quite soon. And that's an opportunity. So normally, a couple of hundred people turn up to that, and we'll have multiple professionals who live in the region and work at the region at different levels. And we'll do a panel event, and they'll talk about how they started in the industry and what their journey was. So they can see people from where they're from doing what they want to do and finding out how they got there. And then we do something really, really simple. So we have a room with lots of tables in and different coloured balloons. And every department has a different colour. I mean, it sounds daft when I'm saying it out loud. But every department has a different balloon because people don't know what the departments are, what they do. So one could be art department, one could be sound, one would be camera, one would be production office. And I ring a little bell and I make them get up and go and sit on a table. And at that table, there's multiple professionals who work in that department. And they just have a chat. And then they ring the bell and they move and they talk to something else. Because young people, a lot of young people are really nervous about talking to grown-ups on networking. A lot of grown-ups don't like networking. So we try to make it fun, we try to make it informative. And if we've hooked them, if we've got them interested, we then do lots of other stuff. So we've recently, Jumping Ground is a CBBC show, it's made in the region, which is brilliant. It's been around for 15 years. So we just had 2 open days. So it was an open day. So anybody who'd even thought about the possibility of working in film and telly came along to an open day. They had a tour of the set. They met all of the heads of department, spent the whole day there, and then they could apply for a paid shadowing position. So 2 days, pick a department. So you have to apply, pick a department, and we'll give you 300 quid. Because the other thing that I'm really passionate about is people need to be paid properly. A lot of people who are trying to get into the industry take jobs for nothing. That's not good, and it's not fair, and it's not right. So you need to be paid properly. So so we had 2 days. We had 70 odd people come to the 2 days on set. 47 people applied for the shadowing. The ones that we lost thought, oh, you have to be there what time in the morning and stay till what time at night. But of the 47 that applied, 42 of them we got on as on the shadowing placements, and 12 of them got jobs. First jobs, but jobs. And it's fascinating. Completely unexpected connections. So we've got so in the sound department we had a young woman who was amazing and just really bubbly and very interested in sound. They're like hen's teeth, you know. Women in sound doesn't happen. So while she was still there, the head of sound on Jumping Ground rang the head of sound on Vera, who they knew were looking for a trainee, and they had a job the next week. So it's all of those things. So you don't know until you see. So you've got to put those opportunities in front. And when we get a studio, which won't be that far away, you know, well, let's ship them in. Let's get people on set. Let's get them to see it. But I think we also need to make more of people who are from the region working in it. Yeah. Does that answer it? Yeah, brilliant.
It's interesting because our young people really don't know what they don't know, isn't it? It's about getting in
front
of them.
Well, how could you? Yeah. I mean, why would you?
Yeah. You talk about the studio. Is it a top secret location?
Sunderland.
Oh.
Yeah. So maybe not that top secret.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It was, but now it's not.
Yeah. Ray?
Ray?
Did you find it hard to convince both politicians and officers that jobs in TV and film are real jobs, and the way making things are real jobs?
This has been filmed, Ray, isn't it? Yes, then no. So yes, when it was just me on my own. No, it wasn't hard when I had the BBC. Because it was real money. It was a real commitment. It was a signed piece of paper with jobs. And funnily enough, when you ask a and I'm saying local authorities, not South Tyneside, but in general, but you know, them as a group, I think if you were asking for 100,000, that doesn't. What impact's that going to make? But so it turns out if you ask them for 12 million, they say yes. Yeah.
So just for our listeners at home, Ray, what was the question?
I was asking whether it was difficult to convince politicians.
I just want you to say it again. It's all right.
In the local government.
Is it difficult to get money out of the local government?
Yeah.
It's actually what you said there. You said they're real jobs. What did you mean by that, Ray?
What I mean is there's a career.
Okay.
It's a well-paid job.
Well paid. There's a structure
Yeah.
in some service industries. You can never really move through it. In these professions,
Yeah.
There's great opportunities.
Yeah.
Not everybody will become Steven Spielberg, but you were right touching on. I know from my circle of friends how many people are moving to Manchester, are moving across to Leeds.
Yeah.
Because they see that is the way
Yeah.
future for them, and not staying here, and that's terrible.
I mean, I'm being a little bit flippant about the local authority. I mean, the local authorities have taken a huge leap of faith. I mean, that's amazing. That's something I'm incredibly grateful for, and I'm determined to deliver a result for them. Without that risk, we wouldn't be having the conversation today. I mean, the other thing as well is we had to, the local authorities did a lot of work around a really robust business case. That took maybe 9 months. So, you don't get a level of funding lightly. It's really taken, and again, that is checked and checked again, and then economists do everything that they do. And we're not. It's not going to sit in our bank account. We'll be given money to deliver certain activities, and we'll need to get results. But I am incredibly grateful for the local authorities to take that leap of faith.
Good question. Next, please. Has anything come from social? Yeah.
Hiya. You talk about the recruitment for like production and that side of things. I run a TV and film academy and an agency for young people in the North East. So I'm trying to encourage young people the same to not just move out of the area, as
Yeah.
you mentioned, to go and work and live in another city when there's, either no training or no one to represent them in this area. One of the things I struggle with is trying to make the connection with the casting directors. How do we, I mean, I've tried and still doing that. How do we sort of bridge that gap of trying to get more of those casting directors that do the productions to come and see the talent in the North East?
Yeah.
Because that's where I find it's a bit difficult.
Okay, I can help. Do you want to ask the...
How do you get people in the know, like casting directors, to understand that we're here? Sorry,
that was really...
When you're asking the question, I'm just gazing out the window. I'm taking a moment.
So can I ask the question? Do you work with our location? Do you work with our production service team?
No.
That's where you need.
Relatively new.
Yeah. So I'll hook you up with Katie, who's our production service manager. So you need to be on our facilities database.
Right.
So productions come in and they'll go, we need this, and we'll give them, or they can search it online. So they'll often pre-look. The good news is that there are not very many casting companies, agencies in the region. So it's a real opportunity. And with the bigger stuff coming, you're well placed. The challenges for the bigger shows and the bigger production, they've probably cast before they make the decision on where to film. But it's the recurring local shows that are much easier to get into. We'll have a chat. I'll help you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I find that since one of the positive things that have come out the past couple of years is that from a casting perspective on my side, I found it really difficult to get local kids like in the room, even just in the room to see them, because they have to pay for travel to go all the way to London or another city, and it's a lot of money to ask them. You go in the room, it's like 5-10 minutes in the room.
Oh, and it's brutal, and it's really brutal, isn't it? But the other thing I think that would be worth considering is casting for factual content.
Right, okay.
So, because there's many more opportunities. Yeah. So.
Well, I think that from the past few years, they have opened up the sort of region to see people do self-tapes, which is an amazing thing, and they're starting to actually go, well, we don't have to pay for them to come down, so they can do a self-tape from the northeast of England.
Yeah.
And so I think that's...
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the good things that's come from COVID, hasn't it? Everybody's realised you don't have to actually jump on a train, you can jump on a Zoom.
Yeah.
It's definitely changed the industry. But I can help. I'll have a chat.
On social, there's a question about, do you want to shout it out for me?
Yeah, hold on.
Is it about falling through the cracks and support?
Yes, yeah.
What support's there for people who fall through the cracks?
Have we got any more...
Education.
Thank you.
Fall through the cracks in education, that this is the industry for them. Actually, you don't need formal qualifications. You just need to be passionate. Helps if you can drive. A lot of people in our industry are neurodiverse. There's a lot of jobs that are really perfect for people with different ways of learning or different ways of thinking. You know, we've talked a lot about the glamorous side, but you know, post-production, data wrangling. I didn't know what data wrangling was. You know,
Data wrangling?
Data wrangling is a brilliant job, and there's a real shortage of it. So, and that's just one example. So, you know, a data wrangler is, so if you can imagine a production films digitally every day, and then every night that information has to be downloaded and logged. So that's a data wrangler. It's a really, really important job. You know, you don't have to have had a brilliant education or, you know, got masters to do that, but you just need to have those particular skills. So I think there are opportunities for people who have fallen through the cracks in education, and we can introduce them to jobs they never really thought about before.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Mine's a bit niche because it's kind of about my problems. But it was just that you know, you're saying about having to sort of move around to source work. So I'm from the northeast, and then I've had to move to London to get sort of bits of work, and over to Manchester.
Yeah.
And I've kind of ended up with sort of bits of experience, lots of things, and the way that it's worked that are kind of, it's basically how to get back into it after COVID, having a break, and then to get back into it in this region, and kind of what level you'd come back in at.
Are you comfortable with saying what you do?
Yeah, I work, I was as a researcher in production, so as a production assistant I've got up to.
So again, I'm going to ask, are you on our crew database?
No, I'm not.
That's what you need to be doing. Yeah. But also, again, we would be working with one of the teams, so we can support you to make sure your CV looks great. You know, if you follow us on social media, I mean, researchers are like hen's teeth. Again, you know, we put jobs out 2, 3, 4 times a week. So be on the crew database, have a chat to one of the team, make sure your CV is as good as it needs to be, and then we'll start putting you out for some jobs.
So that was a really interesting question. I'll just summarize a little bit. It was talking after COVID. I think you said about different levels. So you've come back to the region.
Yeah.
Do you start at the beginning almost again, or you know, is that experience you've gained before lost now?
That's how I felt. You know,
Yeah.
obviously the industry's so fast paced. I kind of feel as if am I a bit out of date?
Okay.
Like, how do I get kind of back in there?
Drama or scripted or...
It's factual.
I'll give you some names.
Has that had an impact, Alison? You know, COVID and on the industry? Have people literally left and gone to do something else now?
Oh, massively. I mean, that's the same for the whole service industry and entertainment and everything else. You know, we had people who had worked in this sector in our region who had to get jobs as delivery drivers to survive. I mean, and some of them haven't come back.
Yeah.
Because it's left mental health issues for a lot of people. So I think what I want to also get the message out is that we are an organisation that is with you for your whole career. You know, we've got your back. We'll help, we'll support, we'll nurture, we'll push you forward. You know, we're interested in building the sector, but I'm more interested in people and supporting.
So that's really interesting. Our friend now who we're going to put in a job next week, who's a researcher, are we going to mentor or just keep an eye out? And
Whatever she needs.
yeah, brilliant.
So 2603 meet Angels of the North. We'll have a chat.
Awesome. Come on, who's next? Right at the back there.
You mentioned the location database. How do you go about contributing to that? Do you have a specific sort of
I know it's...
location to go and find, or can people contribute to?
I mean, have you got a location you want to put up?
Well, basically I produce 360-degree images, either on like land level or in the air with a drone, so I've got hundreds from across the region, showcasing the beautiful areas we've got.
So it's really interesting. So location, people who are looking for locations don't want pretty shots. They want to know where the lampposts are and where the drains are. And so actually the shots that we need for locations are different to the glam shots. But I'm interested in your drone stuff. You could be on the, you know, we could put work your way on that. Yeah.
In terms of what thing and what's that look like up there?
No, because I'll get have you got any drone? You know,
right, okay.
So there's jobs come in all of the time for people who make content, and there's some easy ways to get in to do some stuff that you'll be doing every day. But if you think again, it's photographers as well. So a production will keep records of the production itself.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go straight in and actually work on set. There's sort of other it's like that supply chain conversation we were having before.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you've got a skill or a service, have a look on the website, have a look, to see what sort of stuff's there. And then we're going to be doing events in South Tyneside and meet people who are doing what you want to do, and we can help move it forward.
Excellent. Good question. Another one for Alison? Anyone else? No, I think we're all... Anyone recently graduated from film and production that might have a question? Oh, right in the front there.
You sort of tricked him into
I
asking
did,
a question.
I did, didn't I? I caught him before, and I was really interested to maybe see if you had a question and what your thoughts are.
Mine's kind of like specific, so...
Be specific, yeah.
But I went on that dumping ground.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Interesting. How was it for you?
Like really interesting actually getting to talk to someone that's kind of where you want to be.
And what do you want to be?
Well, editor and kind of, well, mainly editor, but like just interesting talking to people that are actually in a professional thing, and like their expertise, some of the directors we spoke to, and like they were talking about like, their challenges and stuff, and it's kind of cool that even something that you see as being kind of like at a level also still kind of has to deal with the same kind of issues that you kind of just wouldn't think they'd have to at that stage in their career or whatever. But yeah, so I've got a degree.
Yeah, brilliant.
But when I was on that thing, they were literally like, oh, you know, it's probably just more useful to have a like driving license and a degree.
Well, I would never say to somebody don't do a degree, because I think a degree is more about, it's a lot more than the qualification, isn't it? It's a life experience.
Yeah.
But it isn't essential, I think, is the thing that I would say.
Yeah. So.
But don't do a master's. Get a driving license.
So like I've started driving lessons.
Excellent.
When you say just keep on that until I've passed and keep an eye on the runner jobs, because I know it's like a lot of kind of in the middle of nowhere, so you kind of have to rely on.
So editing's slightly different because you can do that from a specific site. So if you're going to be a runner on a show, you will, you know, how did you get up to dumping ground? How was that? Because that's in the middle of Rolandskill, isn't it?
Just people, you know, helping.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like hard to like kind of feel bad relying on that.
Yeah, and that's the reason I'm asking, because that's really normal and that's really true for a lot of people. So when we have studios and when we have post-production houses, there'll be physical buildings that you'll go to at a job like everybody else, and that's not that far away. But the runner job is tough, and because a lot of them are early starts and late finishes. So don't make that stop you applying for stuff. What it means is if there's two people and one's got a driving license and one hasn't, then one with a driving license will probably be more employable. Yeah. So just, how old are you?
25.
You see, now 25 is really good. So production's particularly like over 25s because it helps with their insurance cost. So just get in for your test.
Got some talent in the room, haven't we?
That's the thing. You know, the 1% made in the region is, the key thing is we've got the talent, we've got the skill, we just need access to the opportunity. Well, that feels like a sound bite to end on.
It's good, we'll have that, yeah. Make a note of that one, we'll chop that out. Right, should we let Alison off the hook? No more questions before we go? That's bang on time as well. Well done, thanks for that, really insightful. Alison, come in. I think there's pizza arriving and there's drinks at the back, so thanks so much for coming. And should we do this again? Yeah, rightio, we're in.
Can I say one thing? I've got to. I'm only able to stay about 10 minutes because I've got to go to the Culture Awards in Durham. So I'm not being rude. I've just got to hit the road. But if there's anybody wanting to have a follow-up, my email's on the website. Email me, ring me. We'll have a cup of coffee.
Website?
Website at northeastscreen.org.
northeastscreen.org. Okay? Wonderful. Thanks, Alison.